They did file a statement of facts in addition to this bare bones indictment. The indictment itself doesn't talk about whether or not the what crime was relied upon to bump it up from a misdemeanor to a felony. But there is language by way of a statement of facts that was also filed along with the indictment, which is indictment number 71543 of 23. 23 is with respect to the year 2023. And there's an introduction that talks about how Donald Trump, this is again the statement of facts, how Donald Trump repeatedly and fraudulently falsified business records to conceal criminal conduct that hid damaging information from the voting public during the 2016 presidential election. So right from the outside, this is all about election interference, and that's how they're framing it. Then it says from about August 2015 to December 2017, the defendant orchestrated a scheme with others to influence the 2016 presidential election by identifying and purchasing negative information about him to suppress its publication and benefit the defendant's electoral prospects. And it says, in order to execute this unlawful scheme, the participants violated election laws and made and caused false entries in the business records of various entities in New York. So the DA's office here is relying on election laws as the crimes that were being either concealed or committed to elevate the falsifying business records to a felony. It says one component of the scheme was that at the defendant's request, a lawyer who then worked for the Trump organization as special counsel to the defendant, they are calling him Lawyer A, covertly paid $130,000 to an adult film actress shortly before the election. So this is talking about Michael Cohen paying Stormy Daniels the $130,000. It then goes on to describe how that's done and the false business records that are used or that were created to conceal the payment. So after the election, this lawyer then goes on to they describe how each check was processed and disguised for payment of legal services.
Is each check a separate count?
Yes, each check appears to be a separate count. Some of them, some of these, there were invoices, and that would be, as Adam Kaufman was saying earlier, each entry of a false information into a business record would be its own count. And so each item has its own count. This statement of fact then goes on and talks about a background. There's a section called background. Before that was the introduction. And it talks about the Trump organization from approximately June 2015 and to 2017. And then it talks about a scheme. They call it the scheme. And they call it the catch and kill scheme to suppress negative information. And then it goes on and gives very detailed facts. There was a Trump Tower meeting in 2015, and then it says a few months later they tried to suppress a doorman's story. And there's just a lot of information in here that we'd love to digest and come back and tell. But this statement of facts that was filed by the district attorney's office is to tell Mr. Trump, first and foremost, and his legal team, what evidence was presented to a grand jury and what will be relied upon at trial and what will be proven at trial.
I just want to go to CNN's Kara Scannell, who's gotten out of the courtroom. Kara, describe just what you heard and saw in court as we continue to look over the indictments.
Well, Anderson, when the former president entered the courtroom, you could hear a pin drop. He entered, he scanned each and every row filled with reporters, and he had a bit of a scowl on his face. He walked very slowly to the defense table. Then he didn't speak until the judge asked him to enter a plea on those 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. And the former president said in his voice that we all know, not guilty. Now, the prosecutors also asked the judge to address the rhetoric that the former president has made, both by the verbal attacks he's placed on the judge, as well as the district attorney, Alvin Bragg. And the judge said that, he was concerned about these statements. An attorney for Donald Trump, Todd Blanche, who just came onto the team, he said that Trump was frustrated and that he has not had a chance to address all of these allegations that the prosecution and their witnesses, including Michael Cohen, have gone out and publicly spoken about. Now, the judge said that he didn't agree that this was justified by frustration, and he said he would warn both sides, both the prosecution and Donald Trump, to tamp down their rhetoric. He wasn't going to impose any kind of gag order, but he also warned them that they needed to address this, to tamp down and not incite any violence. I'm a little out of breath because I had to run around the block because the security is so tight here to get out of the building.
It's all right. Just take some breaths.
But that was basically it from the president. He didn't. He wasn't asked really any other questions to engage, which is normal in an arraignment. There's really just a little engagement from the actual defendant. I think we see him in his motorcade leaving out